Hi, historians. This is Miss Yokoyama here to help you review for the Rome quiz. So let's go. So it's really important for you to understand that in every single big society, there are three main players and the power struggle within them. So the first player is, of course, the government, and it's usually filled with officials from the upper class. Then the next group is the upper class or nobility. And then the third group is the lower classes, like the commoners and the poor. And the government's main job is to keep society from falling apart. So, in most societies, the government or ruler is chosen from the upper class. Therefore, the upper class and the government often work together to keep the lower classes in order. They often discriminate against the lower classes in fear that the lower classes might rise up against the system. So, a lot of times you see them working together, right, oppressing or weighing down the lower classes. However, when one or two of these groups get seen as too powerful, other groups might try to change up the balance of power. So if the upper class gets too powerful, the lower class might get upset, but if the lower class gets too powerful, the upper class might get upset, and vice versa. So here in this example, if the government completely ignores the lower classes, the lower class often gets fed up with the abuse and they begin protesting or rebelling. If the government can't stop the rebellion, it leads to civil war, which is war within society. So let me tell you a little bit about Rome. Once upon a time, Rome had a republic, which is a system of government which citizens elect or choose or vote for representatives or leaders to make decisions about the laws for all the people. But their system was unequal because it kept giving one group in society more power or say than the other. This is an example of what? Choose in the poll. So here's the options. A, checks and balances, B, Pax Romana, and C, systemic inequality. Choose one of those. Go ahead and try. All right, hopefully you guessed it right. The answer was systemic inequality. So here is a misconception that people have. A few people being racist, sexist, or classist sometimes is not actually systemic inequality, right? A few people kind of just being mean people and being racist or sexist isn't systemic inequality because that's just a few people or one person. But if a system continues to favor one group over the others, then it's systemic inequality because it's the system that is causing these unequal situations. So let's use an example in the poll. The Roman Republic favored which group over all others? Was it A, patrician men, B, patrician plebeian men, C, patrician women, or D, slaves? Make your guess. Hopefully you guessed correctly. Patrician men were the favored ones. They were given all the power, all the love, all the a lot of land and wealth. And this was especially bad for women and slaves because we know they had no vote in Roman Republic, whereas the plebs had a little bit more power. And that's not fair. So, speaking of not fair, this is how civil war leads to Julius Caesar's rise. So, the rich patricians are taking all the land, right? As Rome is expanding, the patricians are like, this land is mine now. And the lower classes get upset and they rebel. So, a champion of the plebeians is going to appear. So, we have a civil war, right? And this man is, what was his name? Type it in the chat if you have a guess. It was Julius Caesar, correct. So, a lot of people compare Julius Caesar to like Robin Hood, right? And in the story of Robin Hood, there's this guy who is doing bad things for a good reason, and he steals from the rich and gives to the poor. So, we're going to see how Julius Caesar does that. So Julius Caesar does kill democracy. Once in power, Caesar helps the poor and continually takes power and land from the rich. So if we look at the upper class, he is taking land from the rich, and then he's giving the land to the commoners. And his popularity with the plebs, the lower classes, allows him to become dictator for life. This scares the patricians, especially those in the Senate who might lose their power forever. So the way the Senate saw Julius Caesar is kind of like Little Caesars, right? This little Caesar guy, this Italian guy, and he has all the land, and all the land is from the patricians, and he's taking the land and he's giving it to the plebeians, and he doesn't like it anymore. And so they're going to come up with a plan. And the plan is the senators in government stab Caesar 23 times, and he does not survive that. When the lower classes hear about this, right, they are furious, and it causes a civil war for 13 years. At the end of those wars, Augustus becomes divine emperor and begins a period of peace called Pax Romana for 200 years. But although there's a lot more peace now, when the dust settles, the Pats and plebs both lose power. The power to check their ruler, to keep the ruler in check. So they really lose the people's right to vote and be heard, right? Now that Augustus is the emperor, no one else can challenge him. Like whatever he says goes. And when he dies, the same system of the son or the male heir are going to see the same issues. And so if your leader sucks, your government's going to suck, and you have no way to vote your leader out. So that was the bad thing. But please be ready for the next chapter of Roman history. That's coming up next week. But in the meantime, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more ready for the quiz. Good luck. You got this.